Hey, what's up? It's Tackless, and today I'm going to be doing a Project Spark tutorial. Yeah, I know, long time no see. For something that a lot of people have requested, and that is a pilotable mech. A couple of variations on this have also been a rideable dragon, a rideable horse, drivable car, stuff like that. Where pretty much you leave your player body pretty much, and you control a bigger vehicle. Now, a rideable dragon or a rideable horse or other animal isn't particularly feasible just because there's no animation for our player to ride them. It would just look like they were standing still and teleporting through the air with that to that model. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a mech where the player model just disappears. It just disappears, and then when they exit out, they reappear. Unfortunately, can't really do the sweet entering and exiting animations like you can in Titanfall, but I do take some other inspiration from Titanfall. So as you can see here, I've got my player. He's a pretty normal third-person adventurer player with a couple of tweaks, which I'll show you how to do. And here is our mech. And if you're saying that that looks suspiciously like the, the Astro Marine, just scaled up, you are correct. Doesn't particularly matter what this is, especially because I'm going to go first person for the mech. But just the bigger it is, the better. And it needs to be a character model. So we'll go ahead and interact with it. And now we are in the mech. It's got its own HUD. When I walk around, there's a little bit of camera shake to signify that this thing is huge. As you can see, when we walk up to other people, we just tower over them. Now, it feels like that you'd be walking slower than you were, but this is actually exactly the same speed as your normal character. It's just you're bigger, so it feels slower. Now, there's two ways that we can exit this thing. First, we can just press and hold the X button, and we hop out. Our mech is left wherever it was. Our player can hop out and do what they want, and then get back in. No problem. But let's say that we want to mimic Titanfall a lot. We're going to do a self-destruct. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press up on the D-pad, and then I'm going to button jam the X button until it detonates. So, going to do that. There we go. I get launched sky high. The mech is gone, and I can resume my normal stuff on the ground. Okay, so that's what we're going to be building. I'll show you guys how to do that. Before we do that, I've got a little bit of news. This isn't big. I know that I've been pretty absent on the channel, but one of the reasons that is that I'm kind of running out of ideas for Project Spark, and I just honestly don't play Project Spark as much as I used to. I've built a lot of stuff. I've obviously made Terminal Island. I've made like 100 tutorials for Project Spark already. So, yeah. What I'm hoping to do is I'm hoping to start transitioning over to Doom Snap Map. If you're not familiar with what that is, Doom is a game that comes out on Friday, just like 2 days from now. And it's a first-person shooter that's like the fourth installment in the Doom franchise. If you don't know what Doom is in general, you should definitely look it up. It's the grandfather of all first-person shooters as we know them today. But one of the key things that I'm very interested in the Doom game is this thing called Snap Map. Pretty much you can assemble areas really quickly using like a blueprint snap kind of mode, and then within that you can place lots of objects, items, guns, weapons, and whatnot, and you can tweak the game logic. That's the bit that I'm interested in. And from what I've seen so far, there's a ton of flexibility with it. I've seen videos of people who make just like a normal team deathmatch. I've seen people who make like a zombies-esque horde mode. Those are pretty basic. Someone made a basketball game where you have to throw grenades through hoops to score baskets. And then it gets a little more crazy when people have built full working instruments like keyboards and drum sets and cowbells. And someone even made a Harvest Moon kind of game where you buy seeds and you plant them and you water them and you harvest them and you sell them to the shopkeeper. So all of that gives me a lot of hope that Doom Snap Map is going to be extremely flexible and customizable. So I'm hoping to take a look at that, learn the logic as fast as I can, and make some videos for that. So if you guys are interested in that, definitely let me know in the comments if that's something that you're looking forward to, or if you really want me to just stick with Project Spark. I would understand that too. But let's get into the actual tutorial now. Oh, one other last bit of news. I'm replacing my computer because I'm using a PC laptop right now, and it's just absolutely terrible. I've already recorded this tutorial once, crashed halfway through, and I lost the whole thing. So I've got a MacBook that's setting up right now, and it should be working much better. Anyways, let's get into this. So here's our player. I'm going to go ahead and delete his brain, and we're going to put in a fresh third-person adventurer brain. Obviously, you can put in whatever brain you want. Doesn't matter, it has to be this one. The only tweak that we're making to it is with the follow camera, we're going to be adding a transition to it. Transition ease between, and we're going to put how fast it should do that transition. We're going to put it to a half second, which is pretty quick. And the other thing, and this is a pretty minor thing, we're going to be changing the max pitch to 90 degrees. What this will allow our player to do is look straight down, because if you don't add that, a third-person character won't be able to look straight down. And if we're going to launch them into the air Titanfall style, they should be able to look straight down. Oh, and I attached a light bulb to his head just because my area is dark, but that's unnecessary. Here is our mech. Doesn't matter what you use. You can attach lots of objects to it to make it look more mech-y, I guess. But let's get into this guy. This guy's a little bit more complicated, but nothing we can't handle. So I just deleted everything. First things first, we have to make assign its team. Now the team could be the same team as your player, which would be Team 1. But what we could do if this is going to be a multiplayer game is we're going to make an object variable called pilot. Pilot team. So we'll get back to that variable in a second. Whatever team the pilot is, it'll adjust this mech to be according to that. All right. So then we're going to make a variable called activated. When activated is false. And then we're going to make a child line of code. When interacted, activated is going to equal true. Oh, before I do that, let's make a child line of code and assign our pilot variable. So pilot equals it. Then we can do activated equals true. So now activated equals true. This is where our mech boots up, so to speak. Our pilot hops in, and it's go time. So what we're going to do is we're going to do started to, and this is where we're going to get the mech or the pilot to disappear out of the game world without actually deleting them. We're going to do started to. Let's pick our pilot. And we're going to go to appearance visible equals false. Going to copy and paste that. Then we're going to back out and go to physics. Collidable also equals false. One more. And then we're going to select brains. Brain is active equals false. So this makes our player invisible, intangible, and inoperable. So essentially, we just remove the player from the world, but it can easily be toggled back in. Now at this point, we want to add the camera. So the camera for the mech is going to be a first-person camera, just because it's fun to go between first and third person. Obviously, you could do it however you want. You could have the player and the mech be both first person, both third person, or any combination. We'll do first-person camera, transition easing, ease between. Once again, we're going to put the transition time at a half second, which is a pretty quick transition. Now, those who pay careful attention will know that when you interact with the mech actually turns invisible as your camera moves up into it. That's just because the first-person perspective turns the player model that you're currently in invisible. There's ways around that, but it's not that big a deal, so I'm not going to worry about it. Next, let's add the actual controls, which are, pretty important. So we're going to do left stick is move. And obviously here, you can change these settings. So if you needed to add sprint, if you wanted to walk faster than normal, if you wanted to walk slower than normal, All kinds of options here that you can take a look at. I'm not going to get into those because those are all down to preference. We're also going to add one A pressed jump. Okay, so those are the basic controls. You could also add combat controls like shooting, melee, stuff like that. But that's up to you. What I'm going to look at now is exiting the mech. First, we're going to do the easy one. When X, and then we're going to do a countdown timer for 1/3 of a second. Which doesn't sound like much, but for press and hold, it's plenty. Because it's going to be press and hold X to exit the mech. So X after that. Then what we're going to do, I'm going to go up here and copy one of these lines because it's a lot of the same code. The pilot visible is true. The pilot brain is active. And physics, it is collidable again. Alright, so our player now exists again in the world, but the player is still wherever the player used to be located. So we're going to do one more line. And pilot position equals position. There we go. Once we've done that, then we will go ahead. So I was just making sure that I got everything here. I'm going to go activated equals false. There we go. So that should allow us to enter the mech, have our player disappear from the world, and then exit our mech. Let's go ahead and try that just to make sure everything's working correctly. Okay, so there we go. This is the adjusted camera so that you can look straight down on your player. Let's hop in. Works pretty well. We can jump, we can move. We're going to hold X to get out. Alright, all pretty much straightforward. Obviously we can get back in, get back out, no problem. We can do as many times as we want. Now to add the fun stuff. So first, let's add the self-destruct. So the self-destruct is going to first be toggled by pressing up on the D-pad. Up, pressed. Pretty sure that's what it is in Titanfall, isn't it? I haven't played Titanfall in a while. Then we're going to maths. No, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to do self-destruct. Self-destruct equals true. When self-destruct is equal to true. First, it's going to have a countdown timer for 3 seconds. So you've only got 3 seconds to work with, or else it stops the self-destruct sequence. After that 3 seconds, it's going to do self-destruct equals false. And there's something else important that we're going to need to do, is we're going to have a counter. So we're going to have I'm just going to put SD for self-destruct. Self-destruct counter equals 0. Because every time we're going to hit X, on X released, we're going to have the self-destruct counter increment up by 1. Once the self-destruct counter... Oh, I picked the wrong one. Once the self-destruct counter... Where's that? Here we go. Once it is greater than or equal to 10, then we're going to switch page to the next page. Switch page 2. On this page, we're going to quickly switch back to a third-person perspective. So we're going to do follow camera. Once again, transition to easing. between. Transition time. We're going to make this a quick one. So we're going to do 0.2. Okay. Then let's have our guy do a quick emote. Emote. Let's see. Let's do Cower. Should be scary enough. Let's see. Emote Cower. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do countdown timer. 0.75. So it's going to count down for 3/4 of a second. And we're going to go through a lot of the same steps that we went through when we just press and hold X. So I'm actually just going to copy and paste that here. And then, yeah, countdown timer 0.75. Alright, so our pilot's going to equal, our pilot is going to be visible again, collidable again, the brain is going to be active, and the position is going to appear at our mech. And then what we're going to do is for the duration of, let's do 0.25, so for 1/4 of a second, we are going to push. I can never remember where push is, so I just searched for it. I think it's under physics, but this is faster. We're going to push our pilot in direction world up. That way it always fires up no matter where, how, whatever the positioning of our mech is. With the strength of 10. You can adjust this. 10 is a pretty high freaking push. This will get a lot of altitude. You can definitely play with that, and you can adjust how long it launches them for. But this will give our player plenty of lift. Then we're also going to do, for effect's sake, because effects are important too, play effect, explode. I like this sci-fi grenade explosion, but we need to make it big. We need to make it look like we just narrowly escaped death, doom, and destruction. Well, I'm not sure how that happened, but I selected player instead of a number. Let's do like 4. Make this a genuinely big explosion. And we're also going to cause some camera shake. Additional camera shake. Oh, that's one thing I forgot to do. Is add more camera shake. I'll do that in just a second. Speed 20. And then strength also 20. We're going to make this shake a lot. So after this, we're going to do a countdown timer of 0.5 again. And then destroy. I might as well do another effect. Let's do an energy explosion this time. There we go. So this is the explode and get out of it. Let me quickly add the camera shake while walking. So what we're going to do is when is moving, then we're going to do camera effects, camera shake, and we're going to do, let's see, strength, I think it was. We're going to do strength 10. So there's quite a bit of movement. But we're going to do the speed 1 so that it does that movement pretty slowly. Now, this should get everything working correctly. Let's go ahead and test it. And then from here, I'll add the nice little aesthetic bits. Okay, hop on our guy. As we move. Yeah, there's camera shake there, but I could probably turn up the speed just a little bit. We can hop out, hop in, no problem. And then up on the D-pad, button mash X. There we go. So it looks like everything's working about right. Let's go ahead and add those nice aesthetic details because everything we did there looked cool, but it was also kind of confusing what just happened. So step 1 is let's go to the self-destruct and add some sounds and visuals. So what we're going to do, started to play sound. And we're going to do charge. Now, I wish there was one that was a little bit more like the Titanfall charge sound, but we'll take what we can get. Okay, we're going to take that one, and we're going to make it overlapping. Then, let's add a flashing X, telling you to button mash X. So, countdown timer of 4, in frames, loop. We're going to display. We're just going to put in X. There we go. At screen position, and I'm just going to pick 0. What I just did there is that rather than using screen location center, doing at screen position and then the vector of 0 means that it'll always be right there in the middle, even if there's other elements that also are told to go to the middle. So this will always be there. And since we got this to loop, it'll flash really fast. And just for good measure, we're also going to add that meter in there to show how far they've button mashed. I'm just going down here to the bottom because I need to make a vector variable, and I like to keep the vector variables out of the way. So we're going to do SelfDestruct progress. And then we're going to select y equals -0.3. Because I want this to be centered horizontally, or I'm trying to think how to say this right. I want it to be like from the center, except scooch just down a little bit. So, got that variable there. And then we're going to display meter, self-destruct counter, at screen location, and then we need to pick that same vector variable, self-destruct progress. Max number is 10, because once they reach 10, they explode. By default, that's 100, so it would look like we were barely making any progress at all. Let's go ahead and change how this meter looks. I like that one. Let's make it red. I think it's already red, but I'm just going to make it more red. There we go. So that should give the nice little aesthetic look while you're button jamming. We can also go to the self-destruct sequence itself, throw in an effect. Let's see, let's do charge. Large laser cannon charge. I don't know if I've tried that one. But we're going to scale this thing up again, because this thing's so big you need to scale up just about everything you do. Let's do 3. Let's see if we can get an alarm sound effect. Yeah, that should do the trick. I'm going to play that. Okay. There we go. Let's see if it looks and behaves better now. Alright, we hop in. Behaving pretty normally. Then let's do our self-destruct. Now, I'm not going to actually finish the self-destruct. I'm just going to start it, hit it a couple of times, and wait for it to time out. Then, yep, when I do it again, it resets. Okay, and I'm actually going to do it this time. That actually worked surprisingly well. That looks pretty good in my opinion. Alright, so I think we got this working pretty well. Now, as I've said before, if you need to add abilities, you need to add weapons, armor, or not armor necessarily, but other stuff to the mech, it's pretty straightforward. It's the same way that you would do any other player or object. It's just now in the tank rather than in the player. Or not the tank, the mech. I keep saying the wrong thing. But yeah, this should be a pretty fun mechanic that people can use. Yeah, if you guys have any questions or comments, be sure to leave something down in the comments below. If you're excited for me making tutorials on Doom Snap Map, let me know. If you're not excited and you want me to stick with Project Spark, let me know as well. And I will see you guys later. Let's blow up one more time. Yeah, that's pretty fun. Alright, well, I will see you guys.